Welcome, boys. Here we are, 2023 Corvette Funfest. This is day 2, Friday. I didn't record anything for day 1 because there wasn't as many people here. There's slightly more people here today on Friday, but this is still pretty weak. Saturday is the big day, though, as it tends to always be that way. And there will be a big announcement tomorrow, reference the future of Funfest, Corvette specifically, not so much the VW one. So I imagine they're going to announce that going forward, if they continue with the Corvette one, it will be much smaller than, as in like one day probably, because normally, in years past, it's been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the COOF came, and then the government had to shut everything down because, you know, they care about you so much. And then it went down to, I believe, just Friday and Saturday for the last few years. So I was surprised this year they went back to a Thursday. But now it's just Thursday. It's this year anyway, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No Sunday. So we'll see if in the future it's just going to go back to being Friday, Saturday, or maybe only down to one day. If Saturday's always the big day, then they'll probably just do that. Whereas I believe the VW one will continue to be multiple days long, as it has now become apparent that this is... the boomers, I guess, have all died off. This show is much smaller than it used to be. I mean, we're only in one section of this field now, but in years past, there used to be hundreds more Corvettes. And we had not just this small couple acres of field I'm in over here, but I don't know if it's on Netflix or YouTube anymore, but there was a thing called Corvette Nation that was on a long time ago that I'd watched. You get an idea of how big Funfest used to be. It used to be, this whole section was just for people who bought some fancy old people pass so they could be close to everything. Because that's the main headquarters building where you register and everything. The museum is over this way. And then we had over here where the stage and everything is, off in the distance where the concerts were. And then way over on the other side, on the other gate, because this is just gate 2. Back in the day, on the other side, there used to be a gate 4 where you would register, sign in. There's an install dome over there, there was a fun dome. All that, there's stuff way on the other side of these buildings you can't even see. And way off in the cornfields in the back where there used to be Corvettes. So we had this whole field, that whole field, way back in the back 2 fields. So there used to be easily so many more vets in years past. But there's just not anymore. So either all these geriatric boomers just can't get out of their house anymore, which is a possibility, or they all died. But either way, those vets didn't just vanish. They have to be somewhere. But they're not here. So, I don't know, maybe some younger people are buying these things and they just don't take it out to the shows, or they daily drive them and they don't see this as a big deal. Or they hoard them and lock them in their garages, even more so than the boomers did. So, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure why this show has gotten so much smaller, but Bloomington was the same way. And I did talk, yesterday we had an excursion at 11 in the morning. It was 20 people could sign up for it, and we would go out and eat at the Firefly Grill in Effingham. And me and Katie went, and there was only 2 other couples that were there, older couples, and the man that was sitting across from me at the table that I was talking to. He's got a C8. He was in the C8, I believe. There was a C8 and a C7, and then my C4 when we were out. And he had said he worked for Bloomington back in the day, and was one of the people who would kind of coordinate that show. And it was back, and he did that back when it was in Pheasant Run and in Champaign before the new CEO took over. And that was the heyday of the show as far as I was concerned. I was never around for the Bloomington Gold before Pheasant Run, so I can't speak to how it was before then. But the Pheasant Run was the gold standard, the benchmark, and I rather enjoyed it. I have photo albums of just hundreds and hundreds of vets, probably close to 1,000, that were on that 18-hole golf course. The Pheasant Run golf course was in St. Charles, Illinois. It's a little outside Chicago. It was a very good show. So many vets, and you could park anywhere on that green, and just the landscaping behind you was amazing. I got a lot of good pictures of my vet sitting near waterways, little ponds, I guess. There were geese, ducks, other vets just lined up all around the green. The road tour was amazing back then as well. Champaign wasn't too bad either. And about the first year of Indianapolis wasn't bad. They had, they no longer had the Chevy Ride and Drive anymore. Because back in the early days, when I started going, you could drive new GM cars. They would bring out Corvettes, everything from the Corvette down to like the Chevy Spark, and anything in between, you could drive out there. And I drove, it was the year that the 427 convertible had come out, and they brought 2 of them there, and we could drive them. You just test drove them. And I always did like the 427 convertible, which I believe I had mentioned in one of those other videos I did that Chuck had requested on Corvettes, their histories and such. It was a C6, had the big engine that the Z06 had in it, but it was in a convertible. Good car. But then once it moved to Indy, we no longer had the Chevy Ride and Drive. We did get to drive on the racetrack as part of the road tour. If you go back and watch some of my other videos, I believe they're in the dash cam album somewhere. I don't know, I may have moved them from there to also in the Corvette album. This one's mine right here. This one looks eerily similar to Carter's old one, which is the 03 Z06. He had 2 of these things. You can tell it's an 03 by the 50th anniversary badge on there. So it's interesting that here I am at car show years later, after Carter's gotten rid of his C5Z, and here I am parked next to it. I got a bunch of pictures of his car and my car parked next to each other. Back in our younger days, which would have been 12 years ago now at this point, where does the time go? But the point I was making is the show was huge back then. And then we started coming to Funfest, and this show was off the chain as well. Big. A lot of money was spent here. You could have anything put on in the install dome. You could have clear bras put on. They had exhaust. And Bloomington was the same way when I first started going. They had, like Corsa would come in. You could buy Corsa exhaust right there. They would install it for you. It was free installation if you bought it there at the show. They give you a discount if you bought it there as well. In fact, that's where I got the Corsa exhaust. It's on my Camaro currently. It was like the last year I think Corsa was there at Bloomington. And when they were allowing Camaros to show up as well, to try to boost attendance, they say. But I believe, as I had mentioned previously, you may have gotten a little bit of attendance boost out of allowing the Camaros in, but for people like me who had both cars, we would just, instead of driving the Vette, drive the Camaro now. And after talking to Mike Yeager, the guy who owns this, he had even commented, or he asked how many people I thought, or what the crossover would be between Corvettes and Volkswagens. I figured it wouldn't be that many. I was like, there's probably few people who own Vettes and VWs that would go to both of those shows. He said that the number is actually a lot higher than I would think, which I did find interesting, because the Vette people and the VW people do seem to be two different types of people, as I have the pleasure of being able to meet them both and go to both shows. I can tell the difference, as these Vette people, you know, they're cool and all. You got a lot of boomers. You got some middle-aged, my age now. Back in the day, I was me and Carter were like two of the youngest people ever showing up here. We were in our early to mid-20s, up into our late 20s. Everybody else was way older. It's Vette people. I maintain even now, I'm still one of the younger Vette people that show up here. I'm in my late 30s. You can believe that. I would still be one of the younger Vette drivers here. But the VW people, they all seem to be my age or younger. There's not too many super old people. So it seems that all the old boomers, which were the original hippies, by the way, they graduated from the V-dubs and moved on to the Vettes. Whereas people who grew up afterwards, after the boomers, they all seem to gravitate more towards the VWs. So I just find that kind of interesting. There's still a pretty good turnout here today, in general, especially compared to yesterday. Yesterday there was no C1s or 2s here. You know, now we happen to see a few that are showing up. But yesterday there weren't any. You had C3 all the way up to the C8. But there weren't any C1s and 2s. I was like, man, I remember back in the day, though, in the old Bloomington, that there were lots of them. I didn't know there was that many still around. But they were there. Many C1s and 2s. Pre and post facelift for the C1s. And a few of them have come out today. But I don't know where the rest of them are hiding. Where did they go? Where did all those old timers with all these beasts? Why are they keeping them? There's one Camaro here. I don't know how he got in here. I saw him when I was pulling in. There's the single pane window in the back of that C2. It was a 63 split window yesterday, I saw. We probably walked past him today, but I was too busy yakking about times past. I may have overlooked him. But that was one of the only C2s I saw yesterday, was the split window, as he caught my eye, since 63 is the only year for those.
One time we brought it into the 92, right between the...
There's the one Camaro that got in here. C5, or I mean 5th gen like mine. So we're filling up a little more. I imagine tomorrow if I do another video, a quick, more brief one, you would see this field will be much bigger. Today's the day of the road tour. So yesterday we had the excursions where I'd talked to the old guy. And I think I got sidetracked from that. Yeah, that man had told me that, you know, he wasn't involved anymore after Champaign. And in his opinion, that's when the show kind of went downhill too. And I was like, yeah, well, this current year we're on 23, is probably the last year I'm going to Bloomington. It's just not what it used to be. There's nowhere near the amount of vendors there used to be. I mean, there used to be vendors, so many vendors. I wish I was YouTubing back then and filming videos. All I have are pictures in my photo album. I believe I have CDs of those pictures as well as the hard copies. And so maybe one day I can go through that and kind of show you what they used to look like, slideshow format, with some voicing over. There's no video exists of that from those days, unfortunately. But back in 2011, I wouldn't have thought people would be watching videos of car shows for entertainment, or that it would be important to document, because I thought the show would always be there. It'd always be that big. It would never become a shell and a shadow of its former self. But the old man said once the new CEO took over, you know, it just kind of went downhill. And I would agree. I noticed a big difference. And this show, Mike Yeager's still in charge. He still owns this place. So I don't think that has anything to do with the attendance. The same person owns it. He hasn't really changed much. So the only thing I can really think of is that boomers are all dying off, and since they're gone, there's nobody else to take these vets to these shows anymore except the people the boomers who are still kicking, and maybe those slightly younger who've inherited those vets and decide to come over here as well. But I think for me, it's just going to be mostly V-dub stuff now. You know, if this show over here, it only goes for one day, well, I might make the trek every year, come up to Funfest, come for the day, and then leave. But I'm definitely going to keep doing the VW show as long as that's going on here. And there's plenty of other VW shows I can go to as well that are in other states. And next year I plan on hitting a bunch of them up. There's an Oklahoma one. There's a few other ones. And I might as well do them all. By then Katie's 68 Beetle will be finished. And we can roll 2 deep. My sister's 78 convertible will be... She should have figured out how to drive it by then. And then by then... the bus that they just bought will be done. Steve can be driving that. So we'll have plenty of VW stuff that we'll be able to do in the future together. But the vet show seems to be dying. So probably not too much more content on that. But we'll see what the big announcement is tomorrow. I suspect that he's going to just put this up to like one day. It'll be Saturdays only maybe in the future. But we'll find out. I'll do an update. Or maybe this video never sees the light of day and I reshoot this whole thing tomorrow. I guess we'll all find out together, won't we? But I'm going to go sit down and keep drinking these beers. Enjoy the rest of my day under the shade tree until the road tour starts. And as a quick edit, where I'm popping into the video at the end, just so we all know, where I was earlier way over there. The other side of that stage. And back in the day, not only was all that parking, but I got here so late, which is not any later than I did today. Like today I got here close to 10, 9 something. That's about the time I always showed up here. But by the time I got here, this whole field was full, this whole field was full, this whole field was full, this field was full, and I had to park way the hell in the back on the opposite side of this road coming in, perpendicular to the road I'm standing on. So where that car's driving to the right, that whole field used to be full. So you had all this acreage just full of Corvettes, in addition to where all those other vets are over there. So I just thought I would pop that in here to give you a perspective of how big this show used to be. Like there used to be, you used to be able to buy stuff in there. And you used to be able to get your stuff installed in here. That's how much activities there used to be on these grounds back in the day. And now this place is just a fraction of what it used to be. Almost nothing here. And where these campers and everything are parked now, they used to have to park on the other side of this install dome, which I guess I'll walk around, peek, show you the other side, but there used to be a thing on the other side of it. And this is how big the inside of the install dome is, where you used to go to get your exhaust installed and your clear bras and mechanical work and whatever else you needed done. Way over there, that's where you'd have to register. So we would come in, instead of pulling in gate 2, we'd be pulling in gate 4, drive all the way down here, figure out where to park. You know, if we got here early enough, maybe we'd be over in that field, but sometimes this field, and sometimes, like I said, way back there. And then you'd pull in, you'd walk over there, get all your stuff, and then you'd be able to see what's going on in here, traverse the fun dome, go over to the museum and every place that we saw earlier, where all those other cars were parked, where we were earlier. But right here we're lined up for getting ready for this road tour. So I just thought I'd take you on that to show you how big the show used to be compared to what it is now. And again, we'll see tomorrow what the big announcement is. Reference this show going forward. So, all right. That said, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace.